I grew up hating my father. He was hardly around when I was little, and when he was a nightmare. He's responsible for most of my scars in life. I've forgiven him because God told me to and granted me the grace. But up until now, I don't have a working relationship with him. My relationship with him is neither sweet nor completely sour. At some point, I almost advised my mom to divorce him. Sometimes I feel like my mom is doomed to be with him for life. All he does is extract the money my mom works hard for and spends it where only God knows. Because of that, I've had a bad perspective of marriage until recently. I've mostly healed from the poor upbringing, but I'm getting into life proper soon after convocation. I don't know if I'd be able to cope with him, or perhaps I should sideline him. What can I do?
Can you hear me? Okay. And this is a very deep question and honest also, because a lot of people in your generation, and probably mine too, are dealing with a lot of scars similar to this. And I think it's because a lot of people who have parented, those in these generations, have parented from a place of trauma also. And to be honest, you cannot give what you do not have. So it's important for a lot of people to forgive their parents and understand that they came from a space of all they knew. You do as much as you know. And when you know better, hopefully you do better. And this person says that they have forgiven their father, and that's a first step. But truthfully, the honest question would be, have you actually forgiven your father? And if you have forgiven him, you don't have to allow that person to take that same space to hurt you again in your heart. I hope I'm clear. The Bible says to honor our parents. So that honor that the Bible is saying to give our parents is not because of something that they have done, but because of the space that they occupy in our life. So for whoever this person is, you have to keep that space of honor for your parents and that space of regard for your parents. But you must also be careful not to allow yourself to be emotionally hurt by whatever it is that might be going on. What do I mean by that? Let me give a practical example. So for example, if you say you have forgiven your dad, and at this point you're able to remove yourself from certain situations, don't allow yourself to be in that space when you see the anger being expressed. I don't know if I'm making sense. I'm trying to not be too expressive, but to still have this person understand what I'm saying. You have to be able to remove yourself from certain situations. The fact that you say you are forgiving somebody does not mean that you allow them to abuse you again. Let me put it that way. But you must be able to honor your parents. So how do you separate these two? Now, you talked about your mom, you talked about your dad. I would advise this person to actually spend time to pray for them. Not because of what they have done to them. You have let them go, you have forgiven them, but spend time to pray for them. I say this because I realize that when you are dealing with a situation with a particular person, the more you pray for them, the lighter you feel concerning them. I don't know if that has ever happened to you before. So the more you pray for them, you understand that God, they need to meet you for their own sake, for their own life, and then you don't see it as something that has to specifically do with you. So my advice for this person is, thank God you have done the first step of forgiving. But anytime that thought pops up in your head, pray for them, especially your dad and also your mom, and let God do the work in their life. But still reserve that space of honor for your parents. What does that mean? You don't talk them down because you feel like this is who they are. A perfect example is the case of Joyce Meyer. I don't know if some of you have heard her testimony before. Assaulted by her own father consistently for years. You know what? She never shared that story, that testimony publicly until her father passed. And she said the reason why she did that was because even though she had forgiven her father, she knew that some people would be so upset at the story that they might even want to find him to kill him. So she waited for that season to pass before she shared that testimony publicly. So you still have to honor your parents because that's a biblical stand, but it's not for them, it's for you. But pray for them and ask God to do the work in their hearts. I hope I answered that question somewhat.